Assalamu alaikum students. It's our fifth lab of open data structures. In this lab is about the inheritance in classes. In this lab I will tell you that what is inheritance and what are the types of inheritance which we use in the C++ coding. I will tell you about that what is a base class and what is a derived class and what type of properties a derived class derived from a base class. So let's start our lab. These are our previous labs which we have already done in campus. We will use also a dev compiler to simulate the remaining labs of open data structures. So the objective of this lab is to familiarize student with inheritance, base class, derived class and protected access label. In this lab we will write C++ language programs to perform the following tasks. We will access base class member function via derived class object using base class constructor. Now what is inheritance? Inheritance is basically the mechanism by which one class acquires the properties of another class. This is the definition of inheritance. Now inheritance is one of the three basic principles of object-oriented programming and is actually process of creating new classes from existing one. New classes created from existing class is called as derived class and existing class is known as base class. So in this the base class is just like father or grandfather and derived class is the its kids or a sister. So the idea of inheritance implemented in is a relationship. There is a relationship by which we will explain the main concept of inheritance. So for example, a mammal is an animal. Mammal is an animal. Dog is a mammal. Hence dog is an animal as well, and so on. So we will make only one class which is a mammal class, and all the animals which belong to this class will be its derived. A derived class inherits the description or properties of the base class, which can then be altered by adding members and modifying existing member functions and access privileges. So mammal will be our base class for so all those animals which are mammals will become in derived class. So this is another example. This is the main base class is the vehicle. Now we have two types of vehicles, wheeled vehicles and boat. So in wheeled vehicles we have car and bicycle, but in car we have another two types, a two-door car or a four-door car, but these all comes in a vehicle. These all belongs to one category, vehicle. The language mechanism by which one class acquires the properties, data and operations of another class. So the base class or superclass, the class being inherited from derived class, the class that inherits. So this is the main difference between the base class and the inherited class. Now coming towards that, what are the advantages of inheritance? When a class inherits from another class, there are three benefits. You can reuse the methods. These are the advantages, that why we do inheritance, why we the first advantage is to reuse the methods and data of the existing class. You can extend the existing class by adding new data and new methods. You can modify the existing class by overloading its methods with your own implementation. Now, what are the access specifiers? The access restriction to the class members. So it is the we are already using it in classes for declaring the members, data members, and data functions. We are most of the time we declare the data members privately while the member functions publicly. Now, what are the main function of these access specifiers in inheritance? So the access restriction to the class member is specified by labeled public, private, and protected sections within the class body. The keywords public, private, and protected are called access specifier or accessors. So the access specifier, for example, a public. What is public? A public member is accessible from anywhere outside the class, but within a program you can set and get the value of public variable without any member function. But for private, a private member variable or function cannot be accessed or even viewed from outside the class. Only the class and friend function, so here we will use friend functions for it, can access private members. By default, all the members of the class would be private. If you write private or not, it will be automatically by default it will be private. Practically, we define data in private section and related function in public section, so they can be called from outside of the class. If we declare the member functions privately, then they cannot be called. So that's why we most of the time we declare the variables privately and declare the member functions publicly. Now coming to the third type of access specifier is protected. The keyword protected is introduced to allow data hiding for members that must be available in derived classes, but that otherwise act like private members. It is an intermediate form of access between public and private. Protected members, if we are talking the members, so it include data and function of a base class are accessible from a derived class, and objects of derived class with protected inheritance cannot be accessed any data member of a base class. Now coming towards that, what are the types of inheritance? When deriving a class from a base class, the base class may be inherited through publicly. The above was access specified, that how you declare your data and functions. Now how you are inherited, do inheritance. So you can also do inheritance by using the public, protected, and private inheritance. The type of inheritance specified by the access specifier. We hardly use protected or private inheritance, but public inheritance is commonly used. While using different type of inheritance, following rules are applied. Public inheritance: when deriving a class from a public base class, public members of the base class become public members of the derived class, and protected members of a base class become protected members of the derived class. A base class private members are never accessible directly from a derived class, but can be accessed through calls to the public and protected members of the base class. Now what is protected inheritance? When deriving from a protected base class, public and protected members of the base class become protected members of the derived class. Now if we are doing private inheritance, when deriving from a private base class, public and protected members of the base class become private members of the derived class. These are basically the three types of inheritance, and hope these types and these access specifier you will study in your theory course in detail. In lab, most of the time I will give you an overview of a little bit theory, but mostly we will run programs and will implement other concepts of programming in it. So this is the code, first code, which is in which we will do the inheritance. So we have make headers, and then I have created a class. The name of the class is base. Then I have created a function, publicly a function, and just print a statement in it that I am in base class, and then close the function. Now this is the base function, but how you will derive a function? So you can give it any name, the name of the class you can give it any name, and the derived class you can give it any name by your own choice. But here I'm using the base and derived words for better understanding. So the base class, now how you will derive class, how you will do inheritance. So this is basically we are doing inheritance, we are deriving from the base class. So here I have write class derived, and then one time colon, and then this is the access specifier which you will use, that what kind of inheritance, what type of inheritance you are doing. Either you are inheriting publicly or privately or protectedly. So here we are publicly inheriting and from the base class. Now I have create an object of derived class, and the function is written in the base class. So I will just call the function with the help of the object. If I show you the code, this is basically the code, the headers, then the class, the base class, then a display function which I have declared publicly, then a single statement is printing in the base class, and then I'm deriving publicly derived class from the base class. You can give it any name, derived and the base class, just for you have got a better idea about the inheritance and the base classes and the derived classes. Then coming towards the main, the derived is the name of the class. We have create an object with the derived class, but as this class is derived from the base class, and the function is written in the base class. So I am declaring the object with the derived class, but calling that function with that object. So it will give me the output, it will give me the statement, it will call the function of base class. So in this code we have declared the object with the derived class, but it is calling the function of the base class. So this is basically what inheritance is, as the properties of the base class is inherited to the derived class. With the object created by the derived class, you can call the function of a base class. I have also copy the output here. Now the second program is the same as previous, but a little bit changes in it. So I have make a function, make a class, base class, then created a function. In these codes we are defining the function inside the class. So then there will be no need of declaration and definition. So but only one, you will just define the functions inside the class. So here I am just printing the statement that I am in base class. Now in derived class we have, as we are deriving it publicly, so I have also write a function here, and then I have write that I am in derived class. Now if you are creating the object, derived object, but you want to call the function of a base class, then this syntax will be used. But if right, as there is also a function in a derived class, so if I this I will show you the code. This is the base class, this is the derived class. Both have functions. In one function there is written that I'm in base class, while in another function, as the first display is a base class function while the other is the both have same names, but both the classes are different. So now we will call the functions by, if we give it a different name, then there will be no use. That's why we are doing inheritance. But as the function names are same, so you can make a difference. For example, if you are creating an object of derived class, and I will make this comment, and I'm so what it will give us, I simply run it. The object is of derived class, so it will give us a main derived class. It will directly give me a derived class function. But if I want to call the function of the base class but with the object of the derived class, then you will write this statement that obj dot base and then colon and display. So it will give you, I will just run it for you. So it will give you the base class function. So there are two types. If you want to call the derived function, just simply write derived object and then call the function with that object. But if you have declared the object with as derived, so then you have to write this statement, the obj dot base. So it will call the a function of the base class, but the object is of derived class. So it will give you the output like this. So there are two codes which I have. If for example, if you have declared an object of a derived class, so you can call the function of the base class through that object. Now this is the output of that. Now this is the third code. In third code we have also used the constructors, and we have default constructor and also one argument constructor. Here I have created a class of name base, but here we have declared a variable integer protected. The access specifier that we use is protected. Then we have a constructor. As in our previous lab I have teach you that What is constructor? The constructor is basically same as that of the name of the class but with no return type. And in here we have just simply assign a is equal to 0. This is if you are writing it or not, so it will automatically assign it a 0. And if then we have also a constructor with one argument int b. We in this code we are defining the constructors here and also defining the display function. So this is basically the difference between a constructor and a function, that in constructor we don't have a return type and the name of the constructor is same as of name of the class. So here we have do the assignment of variables, and then we have a function display. Here we have just printing or see out the value of a. In first it will give us a 0 value, and in second it will give us a value which we will assign to it through objects. So this is a semicolon which tell us that our class is end. Now we are deriving a class publicly from the base class, but in that class we have publicly also the connecting the constructors, the derived constructor, this is the no argument constructor, and this is the one argument constructors. This is the same as we are deriving classes. So in the same case we will inherit the constructors. So here the derived with the colon base, and then derived int x, and then base x. Now in main we have created objects as we have two constructors, one with no argument while the other is with x. So here we will create two objects, and these are with class derived, and then we will simple display. First we will display the first object, and then call the function display with the second object. So the code is here. We have headers here. We have created a base class, and we have access specifier protected. We have declared our integer a. Then we have a constructor, a default constructor with no argument, and one argument constructor. As you are looking that this is the same as the name of the class. In one we have assigned 0 to a, while in other we have assigned b to a. Now I will make some corrections. Here we will write b. Okay, now here we have derived publicly this class, and then we have also the constructor, the no argument constructor, and this constructor. Now we have the main function with the derived object and derived object 1. Here we have one argument, So here we have just simply assigned it 100 value. First we will call the function display with the first object and then with the second object. So now we will check the output, that initially it will give us 0 value and secondly it will give us 100, as we are giving it 100 values through the object, and in first we have assigned a 0 value, and as the first object is for the constructor is with 0 arguments. So this is basically our third code. Hope you will not facing any problems regarding this. So this is the object output of our third code, that first it will give us a 0 value as we have assigned 0 to a, and in the second it will give us 100 value. Now this is this task 5, which is about the inheritance. So you have to make a class employee with a name and salary, make a class manager that inherits from employee. Main employee is the main base class and class manager is a derived class. Add an instance variables name, department and of type string. Supply a method to string that prints the manager's name, department and salary. Make a class executive inheritance from manager. Supply a method to string that prints the string executive followed by the information stored in manager superclass object. Supply a test program that tests these classes. You have simply made 3 classes: the manager, employee, manager and executive. You will derive the manager from employee and then the executive from the manager. So you will do 2 inheritance, and then simply you will display the name and the department name and salary. So that will be your output. Hope that there will be no problems in this lab regarding inheritance. If still you are facing any problems, so we can discuss it in our interactive session. This is basically the inheritance, that how you will do inheritance in the task, that you will have if main class is the employee, and then you will inherit the manager class from it, and then you will do also derived another class from executive class from the manager class, and then you will simply display the name and department and the salary. These in this lab I have teach you simple code about inheritance to clear the concepts of inheritance, which you have already studied in your theory course. But if still you are facing any problems, so you can contact me through my email address, or we can discuss it in the interactive session. These are basically the one of the main topic of the OOP, object oriented programming. Inheritance is one of the main topic of. So just like polymorphism, inheritance and operator overloading, these are basically, and due to which why OOP is important. So these are the basics and the advantages, that why we use object oriented programming. So that's why, due to inheritance, polymorphism, operator overloading, because they use these techniques, that's why we use object oriented programming in our daily life. So hope there will be no problems regarding inheritance, and I have put include each and every point about inheritance, about its types and everything. If still you are facing any problems, we will discuss it in the interactive session. And so from now, it's enough for this lab. Thank you, students.